Venom is the new Marvel movie. No, not MCU. No, not Fox either. Sony, yeah, that's the one. Venom, from the people that brought you The Amazing Spider-Man and the Emoji Movie, so, you know.
What could possibly go wrong?
You see, Venom is a new Marvel movie, but it's also kind of a buddy movie between Eddie Brock, a reporter played by Tom Hardy, and an alien parasite named Venom that forces its way into his body. So, is it as good as the audiences say it is, or is it as bad as a real-world parasite, aka what the critics say it is? Let's find out in this Venom review. I got that adrenaline. The story of this movie is very, very, very generic. In fact, I will go as far as saying that if you've seen a superhero movie in the past, I don't know, like 10 years, you will know all the beats that have to be hit and when they have to be hit. That being said, even in the superhero genre's framework, Venom does manage to set itself apart in a few ways. For one, the story feels very similar to the original Spider-Man, especially in the scene where Eddie gets infected, and I thought it was kinda cool to see a dark take on, like, a Spider-Man origin, almost like a dark Spider-Man. The film also creates a very likable relationship between Venom and Eddie. In fact, it's the best relationship in the entire movie. That's a segue, by the way. Everyone else in the movie, their character, is non-existent and unbelievable. Eddie's girlfriend is boring, and her and Tom Hardy have zero chemistry whatsoever. Also, the villain in this movie. With Marvel on a recent streak of really, really good villains, this movie had a very forgettable, lazy villain. His motivations are not clear, he's not threatening or calculating, and he is such an over-the-top cartoonish asshat that his entire role in the movie drags it down a little bit. Overall, the writing for this movie gets a 5 out of 10. This movie's acting was okay overall, except Tom Hardy, who did especially well as Eddie. I liked his awkward tweaker mannerisms. They worked especially well with his conversations with Venom, which really made you feel like he's going insane and talking to himself. Many of the other characters in this movie, though, are just average, except the villain, who, again, feels almost miscast because his character has no clear motivation, so he feels very inconsistent in every scene he's in. But because Eddie was so great, and that's who we spend the majority of the movie with, the acting gets a 6 out of 10. I was actually very surprised by how well this movie was shot. It had many interesting transitions, angles, close-ups, and views of San Francisco. But as the movie goes on, the shots become more mediocre and by the numbers, until during the final climax of the movie, it almost feels as though you could replace it with the Incredible Hulk movie climax. You know, the one with Edward Norton, and no one would notice, which brilliantly transitions into the next part, and it's that the CGI in this movie is terrible. It looks like a bad video game trailer from 2008. This is almost embarrassingly bad. The first part of the movie saves it from being completely average, but only by a little bit, and because of that, the cinematography gets a 6 out of 10. I got that Venom is a movie that made me laugh more than most comedies. I liked the relationship between Eddie and Venom, and the movie didn't have me looking at my watch or thinking about the other things I had to do after the movie. I was entirely invested in the world that Venom created. Plus, I mean, watching a CGI monster eat people's heads off while calling Tom Hardy a pussy is a pretty good time. For enjoyability, Venom gets a 7 out of 10. Overall, Venom is a fun superhero movie that suffers from a few problems like a terrible villain, bad CGI, weak story, and some generic characters. However, it is undeniably fun to watch Tom Hardy tweak like a homeless man on bath salts while arguing with a bad Gary's mod skin. Overall, it gets a 6 out of 10.